We all need to breathe clean air. We all need fresh water to drink.
All communities are not impacted the same by climate change.
How does our warming planet impact us in our day-to-day lives? We went on a bus tour across the South and Southwest to find out. The Freedom to Breathe tour was an attempt to understand how climate change intersects with the racial, social, and economic challenges that Americans face. In 21 days, we traveled through 9 states, from Georgia to California. We met with community and faith leaders, residents, local activists, and many others who shared their experiences with climate change. Our goal was to see for ourselves how fossil fuel pollution and climate change are damaging communities across the United States, and to find out what solutions already exist. As a person from the South, visiting communities in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, it became harder and harder to see a distinction between the fight to curb emissions and calls for environmental justice. The chemicals that are polluting communities, displacing families, and literally killing people are the same chemicals that are causing the planet to warm at alarming rates. One of the clearest examples of this is in Port Arthur, Texas, a town with a large Black and Latino population. The city is home to several refineries, including Motiva, the largest in the country.
It's 100% Saudi Arabian owned. They put out 630,000 barrels of oil per day.
Hilton Kelly is an environmental justice organizer who lives in Port Arthur. You can see the Motiva refinery from outside his restaurant, Kelly's Kitchen.
And in 2017, August the 29th, we took refuge here during the Hurricane Harvey storm, and it really helped to save our lives.
In 2017, Hurricane Harvey hit Texas with heavy winds, rain, and flooding, causing widespread destruction and at least 88 deaths. Scientists say climate change tripled the chances of the record rain that happened. Port Arthur was the hardest hit, and nearly all of the town was submerged.
Because of the sheer amount of rain that we received, even the high ground areas in Port Arthur flooded, but we were fortunate that this block did not flood. But everything, a block opposite this side, flooded. So we were very, very blessed.
Flooding in an industrial area like Port Arthur creates terrible pollution. During Hurricane Harvey, floodwaters spread toxic leaks, and many refineries and chemical plants shut down suddenly, releasing millions of pounds of emissions above their permitted levels. When we visited a year after Harvey, it was clear the recovery had been slow. There were boarded up houses everywhere.
These apartment complexes also were flooded. Most of the bottom units right now are not habitable. All those families that were in those bottom units, where are they? They're still displaced.
2 years after the storm, many homes have still not been rebuilt. Federal recovery funds for rebuilding efforts have often gone to smaller towns with wider populations. Port Arthur received about $84 of federal recovery funding per resident, according to City Lab. In the nearby town of Taylor Landing, that number was $60,000 per resident. We've seen similar inequities play out in the aftermath of other extreme weather disasters like Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy, where white communities recovered much faster than communities of color. The destruction and displacement brought about by Hurricane Harvey is just the latest disaster. People have been living with the pollution from refineries for generations. Hilton Kelly took us to the site of the Carver Terrace housing projects where he grew up, which was torn down a few years ago.
This playground in the background here, I once played on this playground as a kid. Now, back in the 60s and 70s, we didn't have an Environmental Protection Agency. The Environmental Protection Agency was founded in 1970, and that's when they were just getting the wheels turning on how to protect people from dangerous chemicals. But up until this point, many of us have been pre-exposed to sulfur dioxide, to benzene, which are known carcinogens, 1,3-butadiene, carbon monoxide. And many of my friends today are suffering with cancer, and many of them have died from cancer.
Over the years, Kelly and other activists have had some victories. They've successfully pushed some refineries to invest in pollution reduction measures and blocked other refineries from expanding.
It's a constant fight. It's a fight that is not going to end anytime soon, but can you imagine a world without environmental activists pushing for change?
From Port Arthur, we went to Houston, where I had a chance to talk with the father of environmental justice, Dr. Robert Bullard. I wanted to learn more about the history of the environmental movement in the South and why we separate climate work and environmental justice at all.
The same communities that are disproportionately, negatively, and adversely impacted by oversaturated pollution are the same communities that are on the front line of climate change. All communities are not impacted the same by climate change. And that if we are to develop real plans and strategies and protocols to deal with climate change, then the justice part has to be front and center.
As Dr. Bullard explained, solving climate change without a justice lens doesn't really fix climate change, and it doesn't solve all the issues that climate change creates. It's all connected.